Hello, I'm Rabbi Elton from the Great Synagogue in Sydney, and welcome to From the Rabbi's Bookshelves. Our text today is by a very important and unusual Talmudist, Emmanuel Levinas, and this is his book, 9 Talmudic Readings. Who was Levinas? Well, he was born in Kovno in Lithuania in 1906, and he dies in France in 1995. He actually came to France in the 1920s to study philosophy and stayed there the rest of his life. He served in the French armed forces during the Second World War, and his family was saved from the Holocaust by other means. He became a student of a mysterious man called Moshe Shoshani, who was a great Talmudic scholar, but looked like a vagrant and gave no indication of his background or his life story, but taught Levinas and some other people just after the Second World War. He became a principal of a Jewish high school in France and took part in symposia and other conferences when he would present readings of Talmudic stories. So principally, not entirely, but principally on Agadic material, on material of a homiletical or a narrative nature. And he would explain the deeper meaning, as he saw it, of these Talmudical stories and passages. These were later collected first in French and then translated into English. He's a very important philosopher, very important Talmudic analyst as well. And he has been published in English and analysed very extensively. One of his major concerns is the importance of the other, of the ethical duties that we owe to other people in particular. This is his repeated insistence and almost obsession which comes through in many of his analyses. I want to share one which I think is particularly acute because it concerns the Day of Atonement. There's a very essential principle about the Day of Atonement, that why the Day of Atonement in itself and the observances which come with it, including fasting and not wearing leather shoes and so on, they atone for sins between a person and God. But when it comes to an offence between a person and somebody else, they have to ask their forgiveness personally and achieve it before they can achieve atonement on Yom Kippur, on the Day of Atonement. And this is very important for Levinas because, of course, he has this insistence on the dignity of the other which must be respected. And that dignity would be lost if God could simply say, like a magician, you are forgiven for your sin against your fellow man or woman. Let's see how Levinas expresses this in his essay, in his analysis of a Talmudic passage called Toward the Other. He says here, let us evaluate the tremendous portent of what we've just learned, that we must ask forgiveness of our fellow human being if we want to achieve atonement for the sins against them. My faults towards God are forgiven without my depending on his goodwill. Because if we just go through the rituals of the Day of Atonement sincerely, God, as it were, has to forgive us. God is, in a sense, the other par excellence, the other as other, the absolutely other. And nonetheless, my standing with this God depends only on myself. The instrument of forgiveness is in my hands. On the other hand, my neighbour, my brother, man, infinitely less than the absolutely other, is in a certain way more other than God. To obtain his forgiveness on the Day of Atonement, I must first succeed in appeasing him. In other words, we owe more to our fellow human beings, or they demand more of us, or they have a right to more from us than even God himself. That is the dignity of other human beings. We can't just perform some ritual and expect to be forgiven. We actually have to go and appease them. God is the absolutely other, but in a certain sense, other people are even higher in dignity in the scheme of morality that God has created in the world. Thanks for joining.